wanted to study psychology. 10 years ago, I decided not to because it's not good. I would spend hours and hours just painting and losing myself in the process and the flow and creation and colors and textures. In a sense, I felt like I was going to become an artist or a painter.
If you could, I guess, go back in time and become 15 again, is there something that you would do differently?
If I was 15 today, oh my God, I love all topics related to the mind, related to psychology, related to emotional intelligence, to the universal laws. I wanted people to be happier. I wanted purpose to be a topic that people talk about.
Welcome to the Young Leaders Podcast. I'm your host, Malina, and I'm 15 years old. Today's guest is the founder of Redefining Success. She's a success coach, mentor, and advisor, helping leaders and entrepreneurs create success that's not just impressive, but meaningful as well. With a background in business strategy, leadership, and personal growth, she guides people to lead with purpose and live with impact. Let us all welcome Ruta Stasiunite. Ruta, welcome to the Young Leaders Podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm great, Malina. How are you doing?
I'm doing amazing. Before we start, I want to let our viewers know that make sure to stick till the end because we have a very interesting and fun Would You Rather session with a bunch of silly questions. Are you excited for that?
I am.
Okay, well, that's till the end. So for now, we'll just go through the whole conversation and questions. So we'll start off by going down memory lane about what you did as a kid. So when you were younger, around my age or even younger than that, I guess what was your dream as a kid and is it related to what you're doing now?
It's interesting. I was reflecting on this recently and I didn't have a clear dream who I wanted to be when I grew up, what I wanted to do when I grew up. But I do remember enjoying art classes and painting. And I remember we had painting classes on Fridays and I would come back home on Fridays early and I would have homework to do. And I would just spend hours and hours before my even parents came back, because back then it was okay for kids to stay at home without parents and without grown-ups watching on them. And I would spend hours and hours just painting and losing myself in the process and the flow and creation and colors and textures and stuff like that. So I could say that in a sense, I felt like I was going to become an artist or a painter. At some point, I was envisioning becoming a designer or maybe a home decor designer, something along those lines. But it was never really like a big dream. Like it was kind of this floating idea that I wasn't sure of.
And so all you would do, I guess, after school is just paint or do something related to art?
Not necessarily, actually. I was a very good student. I was doing a lot of homework, and whenever I was done with the homework, I would just spend time with family and play and watch TV and cook together and stuff like that. So apart from that, I did go to some other classes, like after school activities with kids, which was related to arts as well. Some of it was also related to sports, like volleyball, for example. But I wouldn't say that I was actually painting when I was at home alone or, just spending time by myself. It wasn't my hobby. I wouldn't say so.
And then as a kid, was there something that you did that helped you, I guess, become the person that you are today? Or did that all come through, I guess, the journey of discovery later on?
It's a mix of both, because I was doing certain things throughout my teenage years and my childhood, which only then later on, when I was around 30, I looked back and I was like, oh my God, I was doing this thing. So for example, when I was a kid and I was, I don't know, like let's say 7, 8, 9 years old or something like that. And we would be gathering with, families and friends, and other kids would play outside and I don't know, play basketball or something. And I kid you not, I would not hang out with other kids. I would just sit next to the adults at the table and listen to what they were talking about. So for me, that's one of the memories that I recall that were kind of imposing that I was already interested in higher level conversations, understanding how the mind works, what adults are talking about, what are these, interesting topics that they're talking about, even though I didn't even understand any of what they were talking about. But I was just curious, what are the topics that adults are interested in. And I was interested in that as well. And that actually brought me later on, when I was a teenager, about your age, I was actually quite philosophical. I remember even in parties with my friends, with high school friends, a lot of the other kids would be getting drunk and dancing and stuff like that. And I remember myself being with one classmate in particular, and we were discussing purpose and universal laws and what are we here to do on this planet and what would bring more light into the world. So when I remember these kind of experiences from my childhood and teenage years, I was like, wow, there was something about the way the mind works and this curiosity about the world, about the mind, about psychology, about philosophy, about what really makes a successful human being, what actually determines whether you will succeed in life, whether you will feel fulfilled and happy in life, and maybe not. So it was really interesting to look back.
That's very cool. I know sometimes when there's adults in our house, like when we have cousins over, they have obviously the most interesting conversations sometimes. So, yes, I'll play with my younger cousins and I'll play with them like a lot, but then there'll be times when I'm tired. So instead of going to your room or drawing or reading, I would sit down with the adults, hear what they're talking about, and kind of, I guess, understand what's going on in the world. Sometimes it's related to politics. Sometimes it's related, I'm not interested in politics at all, so I find those boring. Sometimes it's related to business and, I guess, what is going on the news and stuff. So I find it interesting because when my parents talk about it, even if they're talking to another adult, I'm able to understand it because they do it in such easy ways. Talking about, I guess, success and purpose in life, were you able to find your purpose in life, and how did that journey go?
When I look back, also another thing that happened when I was 18, I remember I had a conversation with my parents what I was going to do when I graduate from high school. So back in Lithuania, where I'm from, we graduate around 18 years old, 19 years old. And it was literally 1 year before graduation. And I told them that I would love to study psychology. It would be like, oh my God, it's so amazing to understand the human mind and all that stuff. But the thing is that the conversation went a completely different direction back then, which was 2007, something like that. Back then, it was a huge, very strong stigma around the word psychology. And a lot of people were like, well, if you work with a psychologist, then there's something wrong with you. And so we basically kind of decided that it's probably not really a good idea to go in that direction. And so I shouldn't pursue being a psychologist. So what happened next was that I studied something completely different. It was business administration, entrepreneurship, innovation management, and these kind of topics. And I went down the career path and project management. I was doing, typical things that a lot of adults do, which, they have a job, they work for somebody else, they climb the career ladder and all that stuff. At some point when I was 28, I realized that I was at all not happy. I was feeling like if my company went bankrupt today, nobody in the world would give a shit. Excuse my language.
That's okay.
I literally thought my job doesn't matter. Like what I do doesn't matter. And I want it to matter. I realized that the things that I'm doing, I want them to somehow make the world a better place. I wanted people to be happier. I wanted purpose to be a topic that people talk about. And so that was all of these realizations happened when I was 28. And then I went on this pursuit of finding what my purpose is. And that's when I suddenly realized, oh my God, I wanted to study psychology. 10 years ago, I decided not to because it's not good, because it's not a good idea. But I always was interested in these kind of topics. It's just that I went on this, life journey to figure things out and to kind of acquire life experience. And somehow I returned back full circle to the same point that I actually am interested in the same things that I was back then. So that's kind of how I found my purpose, that I suddenly realized yet again, I love people. I love relationships. I love all topics related to the mind, related to psychology, related to emotional intelligence, to the universal laws, to quantum physics, even, and all of the things that have to do with manifestation, with how we create our own reality, etc., etc. So that's kind of long story short.
Wow, that's incredible. It's amazing how like you started somewhere and you thought it wasn't the right thing and then you went somewhere else and you came back right to the same point. And I think it's important for our viewers to understand that it's okay to, I guess, pursue something that you want to. Of course, you have to listen to your parents, but you want to do something, you can still do it on the side, or you can have it as a hobby maybe, or something you do to help you. And then maybe if you find out that that's like the thing that you want to do, then I guess just go in all in and pursue it. I feel like there's nothing wrong in pursuing what you love doing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so if you could, I guess, go back in time and become 15 again, is there something that you would do differently?
I would try different things more. I feel like when I was 15, I did not allow myself, for whatever reason, I don't really know why, but I didn't allow myself to just explore and try different things and go to different activities, meet different people, go to different events. And of course, at the time also, internet wasn't as wild of a place as it is right now. And I think if I was 15 today, oh my god, there's so much information out there, there are so many opportunities out there, and I would just really look for those opportunities. And probably there are events on meetups.com, for example, or whether they are online or offline, but basically just exposing myself to different things to kind of expand my mind, expand my horizon, expand my culture, expand my community, expand my society, so that I start realizing that the world is freaking huge and there's so much available for us right now, especially in the world we live in right now, with availability and accessibility and information and education and all of that stuff. So I would certainly just put myself out there way, way more.
Where exactly would you start? I know now that there's social media to, I guess, put yourself out there. Where exactly would you start? Not only in social media, but also would you look at maybe different opportunities just online? Like, what other things? I guess like short form. Where would you start?
Yeah. Well, something that I did do back in when I was 28, so it was 2018-19 when I started my basically personal growth journey. So what I did back then, I went on meetups.com and I was searching for events, whether online or offline. And at the time, I was preferring real face to face events. And I was looking for something that was resonating with me. And at the time, because I was on the pursuit of finding my purpose, I was looking for something related to those topics. So that's what I would do. I would start with some kind of event, like it could be meetups.com, it could be Eventbrite, it could be some other, I don't know, Facebook groups or something like that. Social media as well, but I feel like social media is such a wild west that you can go in the wrong direction very quickly. It's a rabbit hole, and the algorithm is basically showing you where you're heading, and so it's a bit of a tricky place to navigate without being influenced by the algorithm. So if I was you, I would go in the direction where I can have as much agency as possible to make my own decisions, what I'm actually really looking for.
And then your company, Redefining Success. How do you want to redefine success? And what would it mean for, I guess, teenagers and young leaders? How do you want them to, I guess, think of, when they think of the word success, what do you want like to come in their mind?
That's a great question. I mean, this is really redefining success, why it's even a thing, why I created it, and what's the mission of redefining success is because I noticed when I was in the corporate world, but also later on when I started working as a coach and a mentor and basically working with very high level individuals, CEOs, executives, founders, et cetera, et cetera. What I noticed is that a lot of people are chasing the wrong things in life, and they believe that money is going to bring them happiness. They believe that status is going to bring them happiness, that success in these typical ways is going to bring them happiness. And I keep on experiencing over and over and over again that people very quickly realize that they have been chasing all the wrong things and they have ticked all the boxes. And I work with a lot of people in their 50s and even 60s who have, in a sense, wasted, it's not a wasted time, but in a sense, wasted 20, 30, 40 years of their adult life
Right.
working on something that wasn't actually bringing them fulfillment. It didn't bring them joy. It didn't bring them fulfillment. It didn't bring them love. It kind of, like you're working, you're grinding, you're doing something that you think you should be doing because your parents told you that this is a good idea, because you have to be a lawyer or you have to be a doctor or you have to be an economist because that's when you will have a safe job. But the thing is that a lot of these individuals that I work with, or my peers, for example, where they come from, a lot of the times they suddenly realize, you know what, I'm just living a lie and I don't want to live a lie. I want to live a life that's in alignment with my values, with what's important to me, what's my passion, what my interests are. And so, to answer a question about what I would recommend to teenagers and anyone who's listening to this podcast, I would definitely recommend to really look into what success means to you, because what we are presented by in the world, like what success looks like, usually it comes from magazines, it comes from Forbes, it comes from, I don't know, lists of the most, successful or rich people on the planet and stuff like that. But oftentimes, the most successful people are also the ones who have the most freedom. And they just travel the world, backpacking around the world, and they're the happiest in the entire world. And who is there to say that they're not successful? According to who? So that's why for me the mission of redefining success is to bring this notion that success is not something that is being told to you what it is, but it's up to you to define it. I want this to be a conversation that is already talked about in schools, even in kindergartens. I want these kind of conversations to be normal in business, so that it's normal for people not to only focus on profit and money and generating, some kind of possessions, but it's also about, are we actually loving life? Are we actually loving the business that we run? Are we actually loving the career that we have chosen? Or are we free to choose and shift gears and pivot in life? And that's also fine. And the same applies to relationships. So often people fall into the wrong relationships because they're like, well, I've been with this person since I was 14. And then somehow it happened that here we are, like 15 years later, we're still together, but we're not really happy. And to me, it's like, yeah, you have to ask questions like, am I actually happy? Are you happy? Are we happy? Is this business making me happy? Am I doing something that's actually truly making me happy? So it's a very long way to answer a question, but that's basically the mission of redefining success.
It is very important to, I guess, be happy. I remember once, I think my dad showed me a video or like told me that there is this teacher who was teaching class and talking about, what do you want to be when you're older? And a lot of people are like, doctor, or I want to be a scientist or an astronaut. And there's one guy, all he wrote was, be happy. And a teacher looks at him weird, obviously. And he's like, what do you mean? I don't think you understood the assignment, right? And the kid, he's like, no, I don't think you understand life, because life is all about being happy. As long as you're happy from inside, I guess, it doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter how many friends you have. As long as you're happy doing the things that you love, I think that's like the most important.
I think I've seen that video or heard the story somewhere, and it's like, I don't think you understand life. This is the best statement ever.
Yeah, it really obviously caught me off guard. I'm like, you can talk to your teachers like that? Yeah. And then when it comes to school, if you wanted to, I guess, incorporate one main thing into every school all across the world, what would it be for, like, I guess, teenagers to understand and learn?
Emotional intelligence. I don't know as of today, I'm not updated enough whether these kind of things are actually taught in schools, but as far as I know from, how I went to school back in the day, it wasn't a thing at all. It wasn't a thing that my parents taught me either. So I had to learn emotional intelligence the hard way. And what I mean with emotional intelligence is like, how do we navigate our emotions? What do emotions even mean, and how to use them to your benefit, because there's actually a benefit to your emotions, all of your emotions, including the negative ones. And so, a lot of kids and teenagers and adults are struggling with emotions, with depression, with anxiety, with stress, and all of these things. And if we taught emotional intelligence and how to actually deal with emotions, the world would be a completely different place.
Yeah, I feel like it would probably make things a bit happier as well. I know for sure when I would go to school, we haven't actually ever talked on emotional intelligence, so I don't think that's even a topic, especially even when it comes to, I guess, being successful. It's all about jobs. I feel like it's very important because there's this one movie that we have here that we watched. It's called Inside Out. There's two parts of the movie, and
Yes, I love Inside Out.
right, it's
It's
like such
amazing.
a good movie, and my parents
Yeah,
and we've watched it a couple times, obviously, because it's like the lessons in there are, I think, like I can't even find the word for it, but it's something you just can't learn from anywhere else, especially not
yeah,
at school, not in the workplace. It's something you have to find by yourself, and then there's always one thing my dad says is out of all there's I think five emotions: joy, anger, disgust, um, sadness,
anxiety.
and anxiety as well. That's in the second one, right? Joy is the only positive emotion compared to all the other ones. Sadness, anger, disgust, fear, embarrassment, envy, they're all negative. And so you have like seven or eight negative emotions, I guess, clasping onto one, and it bottles it up. And that's one thing that I feel that we have to explain and teach is that you have to make joy the happiest one so that it bottles, not bottles even, it just contains and is always overpowering the negative ones, because then it makes you a happier person and you can be grateful for everything, and then it just makes you, I guess, smile, and I guess smiles are contagious as well. And I feel like it's very important for, I guess, I think that movie should definitely be played in schools because people just watch movies for, I guess, entertainment, that's for sure, but there's a lot of lessons that you can really learn from even kids movies.
Absolutely. And listen, I recommend watching this movie even to my clients who are in their 50s. Like, I tell them watch Inside Out, especially whenever we're working on something regarding emotions and emotional intelligence and navigating relationships and stuff like that. It's an excellent movie. And speaking of movies, another great movie, in my opinion, on a slightly different topic, not about emotions, but Moana is a great movie.
I
And Moana is all about basically a hero's journey and feeling some calling that's in your heart. Like, I feel there's something out there for me. I want to go in that direction. I want to explore the world. And then you find yourself as a result of exploration, going out there, pushing yourself, jumping off the cliff, doing something that's out of your comfort zone, out of what's normal in your community, in your family, and so on. So I feel Moana is an excellent movie as well.
Yeah, I love the Moana movies. When we first watched it, obviously I was young, so I'm just like, "Oh, look, it's a princess who's finding her way." But then when you watch it with, like, I guess the intent of learning, you learn that she wasn't allowed to go out in the water. That was for sure. And it was just something in her that, I guess, it broke her when she couldn't. She knows that she can't, but she did eventually, and she got out of that zone even though everyone told her not to. And she ended up changing the whole future for her whole tribe and everything, which is amazing.
Definitely a great movie to watch.
Yeah, I agree. And it's also explained in the most simplest terms, especially since it's dedicated towards kids. So it's like there's nothing really complex about it.
Yeah.
So now we're going to go into our mystery question. So we'll start off with what our previous guest left for you. So I think we've already kind of touched on this already, but as you've moved through different careers and jobs in life, I guess what was the one job or opportunity that really cemented the career that you're pursuing now? And what were the steps that helped you get here?
Something that cemented it. I think it's a I wouldn't say that it's like one that stands out. I think it was a combination of all of them, because when I look back, I didn't have too many different jobs or careers, but my very first job when I was 19, I was a brand new student, a bachelor student in the capital city of Lithuania, and I right away got a job as a administrator or receptionist in a dance studio. And it was like, oh my god, like I'm so young and I already have this, desk like receptionist type of serious job. So I was really proud of that role. And that job taught me is the importance of relationships. And I think that was my first taste of how important it is to actually treat people with love and care, and to be compassionate and to actually take responsibility. Because in fact I was responsible for the entire dance studio while everyone was dancing and having a good time and the teachers are teaching and stuff like that. I was responsible for everyone's belongings and all the money stuff and all that. So it really taught me a lot about what's important in life in some way so early on. And then later on, all of the other stuff, like with project management and everything, it just kept on teaching me that we need to really focus on who we truly are more than anything. Because my journey was something that I kind of lost myself along the way. So in the jobs that I had in project management, I felt like I was trying to perform. I was trying to be someone I'm not, or I was trying to, appear professional and stuff like that. But I kind of lost my personality and I lost my authenticity. And when I was 28, when I kind of hit this crisis, being like, oh my God, so who am I? Like, what am I doing with my life? This doesn't give me any sense of like zest for life. And so I guess that's what's in a sense cemented it. This realization that authenticity and purpose and relationships and really caring for myself and for my people is the most important. So that's how I would answer the question.
Okay, and what would be your mystery question for the next guest?
So my question would be, if you knew that you would always, without a doubt, have an abundance of money, would you do something differently in life right now? And if yes, what would it be?
Oh, wow, that's actually a really good question. I'm excited to hear what our next guest will say about that. Now we're going to get into the Would You Rather session. I will be giving you 3 Would You Rather questions that are completely not related to the conversation. Hopefully we'll have a good laugh at the end of it, and then we'll be done.
Okay.
Okay, so would you rather have shoes that squeak with every step or hiccup every time you start talking?
I would probably rather wear the shoes that squeak every time. I actually had one pair of sandals. I used to have them, and they were squeaking every time. And at the time I didn't have the money to buy new ones, and I was like, okay, fine, I will just wear these ones. And I wore them the entire summer, and it worked. But then if I'm gonna have hiccups every time I open my mouth, especially as we live in this world where it's all about having conversations online and building personal brands and stuff like that, I think that would be a little bit kind of getting in the way.
Okay, the next one is, would you rather laugh every time someone says your name or cry every time someone compliments you?
Oh, interesting. I would I would definitely laugh. Yeah.
So,
I mean, the reason why I was thinking for a moment is because crying doesn't automatically mean it's a bad thing, because crying can also be like, oh my God, it's so nice that you're giving me a compliment. And then you get emotional in a positive way and crying in a positive way. So that could also be the case. But in general, I don't know if you're aware of, like, coming back to the emotional stuff and emotions, there's this thing called Map of Consciousness by David Hawkins, and he talks about the scale of frequencies and that joy is one of the very top on the basically pretty much at the top of the scale. So if you have a choice to have a burst of genuine joy and laugh and having a good time with your friends, with your family, with your loved ones, with your colleagues, with your peers, then use every opportunity to do so.
Okay, I like that answer. I would probably laugh as well. I'd be like, "Hey, Malina, ha ha ha, hi."
Ah, why not?
And then the last one is, would you rather would you rather have your outfit randomly change every time someone says your name, or have your hairstyle or hair color change every time someone likes your post?
I mean, I would quite enjoy changing my clothes every time. Yeah, why not? I guess it would be like alter ego situation when I'm trying to figure out which costume fits me most, and like having a personal stylist that changes me every single moment. Why not?
Yeah, but it
What
won't
about
be when we say your name. So if you want to try out like 3 different clothes, you'd have to say your name 3 times.
you? Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Ruta. I really enjoyed this conversation. I hope this conversation resonated with many of our viewers. And don't forget to subscribe and like.